Have you ever heard of a pool player who used a fake name just to avoid intimidating his opponents? Back in 1985, a quiet Filipino entered a major tournament in Houston, Texas, under the name Cesar Morales. Nobody knew who he was, but by the end of the event, he had defeated some of America's best players and left the entire pool world asking the same question: who is this guy? His real name was Efren Bata Reyes, and from sleeping on a pool table as a child to becoming the greatest pool player in history, today we're revealing 13 little-known facts about the magician that most fans have never heard. Let's start with fact 13. Back when he was just 5 years old, Efren Reyes moved to Manila and lived inside his uncle's pool hall, Lucky 13. He was so small that he had to stand on soft drink crates just to reach the table. At night, he even slept on it. Every morning before school and every evening after the hall closed, Efren practiced. By age 12, he was already traveling to money games and hustling seasoned players. No coach, no expensive equipment, just obsession. And those countless hours around a pool table laid the foundation for the greatest player the sport would ever see. But the next fact explains how Efren got the two names that made him famous worldwide. At fact 12, we have the two names that defined a legend. The first was Bata, which means kid in Filipino. It was given to Efren solely to distinguish him from an older player with the same name. The second was the Magician, and that one had to be earned. As Efren began competing internationally, fans and commentators watched him make shots that seemed impossible: banks, kicks, escapes, and creative angles that left opponents speechless. He didn't just play pool, he made it look like magic. Bata reminded the world where he came from. The magician showed the world what he became. But by 1985, his reputation had become so powerful that he needed a different name entirely. At fact 11, we have one of the greatest hustles in pool history. Back in 1985, Efren Reyes arrived in America with a growing reputation that already had top players worried. So instead of using his real name, he entered tournaments under the name Cesar Morales. Nobody recognized him. Nobody knew what was coming. At the Reds Open 9-ball tournament in Houston, he quietly worked through the field, defeating some of America's best players, and then he won the entire event. Only afterwards did many people realize who had beaten them. The story became legendary because Efren didn't hide out of fear. He hid so opponents would play their best, and he beat them anyway. But the next fact reveals where his famous magic shots really came from, and the answer will surprise you. At fact 10, we discover where the magician got his magic. Most players learn from champions. Efren Reyes learned from bad players. He once explained that while great players taught him the fundamentals, the impossible shots came from watching beginners make lucky mistakes. The strange banks, the unexpected kicks, the shots nobody meant to make. Instead of ignoring them, Efren studied them. He copied them. Then he practiced them until they stopped being accidents and became weapons. That's what made him different. While everyone else followed the rules, Efren explored possibilities that no one else could see, and that's how he turned chaos into magic. And soon, that magic would help him make pool history in America. At fact 9, Efren Reyes made history. Back in 1994, he became the first non-American and the first Asian to win the prestigious US Open 9-ball championship. To do it, he defeated the defending champion and tournament favorite Nick Varner. But this victory was bigger than one trophy. For decades, the event had been dominated by American players. Efren changed that. He proved that the best pool player in the world could come from anywhere. And in doing so, he helped turn pool into a truly global sport. Even more incredible, he achieved it using a cue stick that cost just $10. And that humble cue would become one of the most famous pieces of equipment in pool history. At fact 8, we find one of the most unbelievable details of Efren's career. Back in 1985, while competing in America, Efren used a cue stick that cost just $10. It wasn't custom-made, it wasn't expensive. In fact, it had been given to him after his own cues broke. Most professionals obsess over equipment. Efren didn't. He stuck with the cue because it felt right. And with that same $10 stick, he defeated some of the best players in the world. That's what made the story legendary. While others relied on expensive gear, Efren relied on skill. Because, in his hands, a cheap cue became a weapon. And soon, that weapon would help him produce one of the greatest comebacks in pool history. At fact 7, we reach one of the greatest matches in pool history. In 1996, Efren Reyes faced Earl Strickland in the Color of Money match, a 3-day showdown in Hong Kong with $100,000 on the line. For much of the match, Earl was in control. At one point, Efren trailed 104 to 87. Most players would have folded under that pressure. Efren didn't. He stayed calm, adjusted his strategy, and slowly fought his way back. Then came the impossible. He completed a stunning comeback and won 120 to 117. The victory became legendary. Because that match didn't just prove Efren could play. It proved he could survive, adapt, and win when everything was against him. But the next fact has nothing to do with pool, and everything to do with dentures. At fact 6, we get one of the strangest stories in Efren Reyes' life. Efren once wore dentures, but he rarely liked using them because they felt uncomfortable. Then one flight changed everything. After being woken up by a flight attendant, he chose the beef meal and took a bite. Suddenly, his dentures came out with the meat. Embarrassed and annoyed, Efren walked to the bathroom and threw them away. And that was the end of them. It sounds unbelievable, but it's classic Efren. He never cared much about appearances. He cared about comfort and performance. If something affected his game, it wasn't worth keeping, and that same mindset helped him achieve something no player had ever done before. At fact 5, Efren Reyes achieved something no player had done before. In 1999, he won the WPA World 9-Ball Championship in Cardiff, Wales, becoming the first Filipino to claim the title. The victory sparked celebrations across the Philippines. But Efren wasn't finished. 5 years later, at the WPA World 8-Ball Championship, he fell behind early before producing another trademark comeback to win the final. 2 world titles. 2 different disciplines. 1 player. That's what makes this achievement so special. Most champions master 1 game. Efren mastered multiple games at the highest level, and that's why many consider him the most complete pool player who has ever lived. But the next fact reveals a record that proves just how dominant he really was. At fact 4, we find the record that proves Efren wasn't just great at 1 game. The Derby City Classic is one of pool's toughest events, testing players across 9-ball, 1-pocket, and bank pool. Most professionals specialize in 1 format. Efren mastered all 3. That's why he's won the event 13 times, more than any other player in its history. The record matters because it shows something world titles alone can't. Efren wasn't a specialist, he was complete. No matter the format or the challenge, he found a way to win. And the next fact reveals a side of Efren that had nothing to do with pool tables, because he became a movie star. At fact 3, Efren Reyes stepped away from the pool table and onto the big screen. In 2003, he starred in the Filipino action comedy Partners alongside legendary actor Fernando Poe Jr. It was Efren's first major acting role. And despite having no acting experience, audiences loved him for his natural and authentic performance. The film became a celebration of Filipino culture, friendship, and perseverance. More importantly, it showed how much Efren meant to his country. He wasn't just a sports hero anymore. He was a national icon. But the next fact proves his talent extended far beyond 1 game or even 1 sport. At fact 2, we discovered that Efren's greatness wasn't limited to pool. Starting at the 1987 Southeast Asian Games, he won medals across multiple cue sports disciplines, including pool, snooker, and carom billiards, and he kept doing it for decades. While most champions master 1 game, Efren mastered several. Even more impressive, he was still winning international medals at the 2019 SE Games at age 65. That's what makes this achievement so special. It isn't just about talent. It's about longevity, adaptability, and excellence across generations. But before we reveal the Ishuan fact, there's one final story that perfectly captures the unique personality behind the legend. Before we get to the Ishuan fact, here's a fun one. Efren Reyes has a unique tournament superstition. He avoids taking a bath during competitions because he believes it helps him stay focused and maintain his luck. It sounds strange, but it's also classic Efren. He's never cared much about appearances, only performance. And if a routine works, he sticks with it. Fans laugh about it. Efren doesn't, because champions trust their habits. And for Efren, that belief became part of the legend. But the E1 fact reveals the victory that cemented his place in sports history forever. And finally, at fact 1, we reach the achievement that cemented Efren's legacy forever. Back in 2006, Efren Reyes competed in the IPT World Open 8-Ball Championship in Reno, Nevada. The event featured the richest prize fund pool that had ever been seen. In the final, he defeated Rodney Morris 8-6 and claimed an incredible $500 0-0 first-place prize. At the time, it was the largest payout in pool history, but the victory meant more than money. It was proof of how far he'd come, from a boy sleeping on a pool table in Manila to the richest champion the sport had ever produced. That's why Efren Reyes isn't just a legend. He's the standard by which every great pool player is measured. Efren Bata Reyes didn't become a legend because of luck. He became a legend for refusing to stop. From sleeping on a pool table in Manila to winning the largest prize in pool history, every chapter of his journey was built on obsession, discipline, and belief. A $10 cue stick, a fake name, impossible shots, historic victories. Through it all, Efren proved that greatness isn't about where you start, it's about how far you're willing to go. And that's why the world doesn't just remember Efren Reyes, it remembers the magician. Efren Bata Reyes is more than a pool champion. He's a symbol of what obsession, discipline, and belief can achieve. From sleeping on a pool table to becoming the magician, his journey proves that greatness isn't given, it's earned. If you enjoyed this countdown, subscribe for more legendary sports stories. And here's the question. Which Efren Reyes fact surprised you the most? The $10 cue stick, the Cesar Morales alias, the denture story, or the $500 0-0 prize? Let me know in the comments.